Their journey began in Yasharel, but they were scattered across the face of the earth, each one with its own beat, and each one with its own rhythm. As the dry bones are being revived, the beat begins again at the heart of the tribe.
Hello, hello. Welcome to the Heart of the Tribe show. This is a new episode called CC Talks. Hi, Carrie. How are you?
Hey, Chelle. I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I'm so excited for our first episode of CC Talks. Carrie and I have such good conversations that we were like, you know what? We just need to talk and record our conversation. That's where all the good stuff happens.
Yeah. It's so true.
It really is. So we each have our own Telegram channel, but we're highly active on each other's channels. And one of the things that had come up lately was a couple of videos on Jonathan Cahn's book, The Return of the Gods. Yeah. And I've just barely started reading this, and I know, Carrie, you've ordered one, right?
So I was actually wanting to do the Audible so that I could listen to it while I did things, because sometimes it's hard to sit down and read. So, but I am really excited to read it, because after listening to his interviews about it, it was like, oh, there's some information in here that I've never heard before. And yeah, I thought I'd heard just about everything that shows the arrogance of that thought. Because it's like I'm not God, like I haven't heard everything, but I don't know. You just feel like that stuff keeps getting rehashed. Yeah. And so I was surprised when he started talking about stuff, and I thought, this is extremely good. So while I was painting this room, that's what I was
very clean and nice.
Yeah. It's like blank. So there's gonna be stuff put in here eventually, guys, so that you can look at other things other than me. So
yep, she's working on her studio.
And it sounds so blank in here. I'm like, hello. So maybe we'll get some stuff in here and soundproof, but
absolutely. Well, when I was listening to this Jonathan Cahn, Steve Quayle, Doug Hagmann interview, there were a couple of things that really, really hit me. One, he was bringing up the parable found in Matthew 12:44. So I just wanted to look at that real quick and talk about that for a second, because there was something that he brought up that I've missed always on this parable. And it was like I couldn't believe it. It was like, how have I missed that?
Yeah.
How have I missed that? But I had missed it. And I'm so glad that Jonathan Cahn did not miss it, because it's incredible. So he's talking about, I guess, let me see. I see the parable in Matthew 12:43 and 44. Let's just read it. I'm reading this out of the New Living Translation. So, when an evil spirit leaves a person, it goes into the desert seeking rest, but finding none. Then it says, I will return to, and see, this version has the person I came from. So I wonder if in a different translation, it's using a different word. I don't know what was used here for the Greek, right? I will return to the person I came from. So it returns and finds its former home empty, swept, and in order. Then the spirit finds 7 other spirits more evil than itself, and they all enter the person and live there. So that person is worse off than before. That will be the experience of this evil generation. So perhaps there's like a twofold thing, apparently, from what he's talking about. Yes, this is an experience of a person, but when we get down to the end, the evil generation, the end times generation, that just like in the days of Noah, every thought has become evil continually. right? I'd never really connected that. I'd always just gone on the personal level.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd never really thought about that. And so
me neither.
When I started thinking about that, and what I heard him say on this is basically when we look at like the history that we've been shown, that from qualified people that have looked at the history and dug into not what's written in our history books, but dug into like the actual history, right? Not the stuff that's been hidden from us.
Right. Yeah.
So people like Timothy Alberino, I've really enjoyed his videos where he's talked about, America, and it's spelled completely differently, and with it being the land of the plumed serpents and its ties to ancient deities, Then I had heard an interview with Tim Bunce, who is a pastor that has a serious intercessory prayer gift. He had done an interview with the late Rob Skiba. And in this interview, I ended up really going into this on one of my reports from under the desk. But to make a long story short, and if you want to see the long one, I'll try to link that video to this, right? But the long story the short story is that he was directed to go to Jekyll Island and figured out that the entire Federal Reserve System was created in the dining room that sat on top of an ancient Canaanite child sacrifice altar. Right. And so our entire money system was created on top of that. And so, I'm looking at these different pieces of the puzzle, thinking about these things. Right. Dr. Sanger's work, where in her book, The Roots of the Federal Reserve, where she's really digging into these things and what's gone on in our country and what the whole Federal Reserve is. I mean, there's some great information. So thinking about that, and in light of what Jonathan Cahn was sharing, that this was a land that was basically cleansed. I mean, it had all of that, right? But it had been cleansed with the Spirit of Yah. As our history reveals, there were good people seeking the freedom to worship Yah in spirit and in truth. Christmas wasn't even allowed in this country until the 1800s. I mean, think about that. Yeah, I mean, it was like a pagan free zone, but yet what happened with the progression, and this is what Jonathan Cahn was kind of pinpointing it in the 60s with we had feminism come in, we had drug, sex, rock and roll. We had the Vietnam War. We had this spirit of freedom, the sexual revolution coming in, Playboy, Penthouse, all the different things that came into the culture at this time. And then in the 70s with Roe v. Wade and abortion. And so it really, if what he was saying about this is that the demons had taken on basically a subterranean nature in the land. And so that was what he was saying in one of the interviews, the second clip that we watched with Steve Quayle on Steve Quayle's channel. And so I had to look it up because I had to think, gosh, what is that with this subterranean? So subterranean is situated or operating beneath the earth's surface, something that's underground, hidden, or done in secret. Definitely. Isn't that what we've experienced, that so many things have been done underneath the surface, hidden, the technology that they're revealing to us, it's 50 or 60 years old already.
Right.
So, we're not even aware, it's been trickled out. And and very hidden, very subtle, of what's been happening. And I loved this particular quote from Jonathan Cahn. He said, if you're in a fight and you don't know what you're fighting, you are probably not going to win.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so interesting. What an interesting point, because, and this is what's happened, because you think about it, when for years now, when I've tried to talk to anybody about the sons of God, the Bene, Elohiym, what's happening, the God's mating with, falling from heaven, mating with women, producing the Nephilim, all of this stuff, producing the giants, and the Rephaim, all of this stuff. So many people go, oh, where are you getting that? That's not in the Bible. It's like, what? Well, it is.
Yeah.
No, but things have been, it's almost like that scripture that talks about my people perish for a lack of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
To me, his statement, if you're in a fight and you don't know what you're fighting, you're probably not going to win.
Right.
Because if you can't even recognize your enemy,
right,
because it's been so hidden from you, and you think that's crazy stuff, that's way out there, how are you going to engage in that fight? How do you even begin to hope to win a fight like that?
Yeah. Well, you hit on a really good point about, not knowing things. If you are not understanding that, well, let's just take my grandkids, for instance, if you don't realize that there is a change in curriculum, let's just say at a public school, then you're going to be putting your kids into a public school. I did homeschool my kids. Thankfully, it was not because of the stuff going on in the public schools now. I mean, it's like jumped exponentially into way worse stuff in public schools now. So you would just trust and, unknowingly just lay your children at the feet of these authority figures that you are trusting, and you are unknowingly, because either out of ignorance, because ignorance is bliss, you choose to be in a blissful state, but it's not going to be long, you are either being ignorant for a reason like that, or you are being ignorant, maybe a spiritual covering of your own eyes, your own ears, you don't hear, you don't see, whatever, then you're not going to understand that you are literally not protecting your kids by putting them into a public school. You are hurting your children, but you don't even realize it because you have no knowledge of what it is that you're fighting. And so I can see how if sorry, I got a frog in my throat. It might be the paint off gassing. But and everything's blooming because everything's like raining here. So but talking about Steve Quayle and Jonathan Cahn, how they're saying you don't even know what you're fighting. You are putting your kids, and I know I keep using the public school, homeschool, just because it's just such an easy thing to compare it to, is that no parent would allow their child to be hurt if they are a true good parent. Even the people who are, say, atheists or whatever, they say that they would never allow their kids to be hurt. And I don't think that there's anyone out there, unless they're truly evil, that sets out to hurt a child, unless they're truly evil. So they would never allow their kid to be subjected to the things that are being taught in a public school and the things that are happening in a public school. They would never do it on purpose.
Right.
But they are ignorant in that they are not keeping up with what is being taught. They're being ignorant in, going, oh, that's fear mongering, or that's doom and gloom, or, you know, you're just ruining my day. I don't want to hear about what is being taught in public schools. Just, and who is supposed to teach my kids? I got to go to work and make that bill for that house, which is understandable. And I understand that. But anyway, so us talking about, you know, being aware, we have got to be aware. And that's why I think that we're doing these videos is not only are we communicating to each other, like, I mean, if there's only one other person that tunes into these and one other person got to be enlightened, and we are sharing to the world what it is we're hearing. And so in these videos that Jonathan Cahn, Steve Quayle did, there was 2 of them. One was on the Hagmann report. And then I think that was like an hour long, something like that. And then they went over to Steve Quayle's like the next day and did like an hour and 45 minutes or 2 hour long one. So they went a little bit more in depth in the Steve Quayle one. They specifically talked about, you know, Pride Month. And I'm going to try, they talked about ride pay unth May. We're going to talk in pig Latin. But, you know, they talked about that. They talked about where that spirit came from. Yeah. That actually is a spirit. And it is, and that's tying back to that, you know, proverb that Yeshua was speaking about, where if someone is, you know, delivered, I'm paraphrasing, that if you are delivered from a demonic spirit, then he goes away and the house, which is man, gets cleaned up. And then after a little while of wandering around in the desert places, that demonic spirit goes, you know, I want to go back to a house. And so it comes back and sees that that house has been swept clean. So they were comparing America and then eventually the world being swept clean because of the gospel going through the entire planet and pushing out and delivering the entire planet of the demonic spirits of this particular demonic spirit. And this one would be Isis, which is also known as Eostra, which is also known as, help me out with all the names, because they change all the names on purpose.
Astarte. You know, when it was the Phoenicians called it Astarte. Ashtaroth, I believe, was the original Canaanite name. Right. You know, and becomes the goddess Diana, I believe. Right. You know, gosh, just Adonis. Yeah. You know, so it's Aphrodite. Yes. You know, yeah. So, I mean, it's all the spirit of love. Love is love, right? Right. Yeah. Right. Love is love. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's what it got vanquished. You know, by the gospel.
I have to tell you this. Have you heard this? I saw a clip, which I'm not recommending this, but I did think it was kind of funny. That people have been going into Target and getting a trash can and putting it in their cart and loading it with all that merchandise, all that wokeism merchandise, right? And taking it right on up to the cashier, and then I've changed my mind.
Oh, that's great. That is great.
I did think it was kind of funny, you know. Yeah, a little bit of rebellious, that we're sick of having this shoved down our throats, is I think what the message really is stop shoving this crap down our throats.
So remind me, because I want to finish my thought about what Jonathan Cahn was saying, but remind me to talk to you about why corporations are all of a sudden doing this, because that's something that I've been watching some videos and educating myself on. And that's what we're trying to do here, is educate each other
Right.
And if that one person that listens to us educating each other is educated, then yay,
Yeah.
Okay, so back to Jonathan Cahn. So that spirit is the spirit of fertility that the world worships through Easter.
Yes.
If you're not aware of this, Easter is Eostra, and it is a pagan worship of a fertility goddess, and that's why you have eggs.
Hence the bunnies.
Right. The bunnies, the eggs. And so the Catholic Church in around 330, maybe right before that, because I think it was before that, because 330 was the Council of Nicaea, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it was actually right before that, but they were not getting a whole lot of people coming into their churches, and they needed more people. And so they were like, okay, you can come in. We won't make you stop doing the evil that you're doing. It's okay. God loves everyone. All roads lead to God. Does this sound like something that's happening today?
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And we got to fill up the stadium, because that shows that we're impacting culture. If we have a full church, that's not true. You can impact culture right here, two people just talking to each other, and it just bleeds out into the world, reaching the people that God wants us to reach.
Yeah.
And so Eostra is Easter, Ishtar. It's in the Bible, and God specifically speaks about it and speaks against it. And so I'm sure that Chelle has got all the names that are in Hebrew, and I think she already mentioned one of them. I think in King James is Ashtoreth.
Yes.
Something like that. And Tammuz is supposedly the son, and Nimrod is the father, and Tammuz is also Nimrod. It's like this whole thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's what this whole Pride Month is about. It is not only fertility, it is actually gender morphing into you're both male and female, which I did not know. I really thought that I knew that that's what Luciferians thought and believed.